Hello everyone, today I am going to discuss our work upon modified natural gums and their applications for environmental remediations. We have been working upon polysaccharides and some of the gums, modifying them using microwave based techniques and applying them for suitability in their applications for environmental remediation in pharmaceuticals and some other applications also. So to begin with, we have graft copolymers with us, which come among the branch copolymers, where the main chain is made entirely of one repeating unit, while the branch chains are made up of another repeating units. And it is possible to graft these branches upon the main chain. So this sort of grafting, it is done by following free radical addition mechanism. And the graft copolymer synthesis, it varies according to the synthesis technique employed, how the free radical sites are generated on the backbone of preformed polymer. So there might be certain chemical or conventional techniques in which we used chemical free radical initiators under nitrogen or inert atmosphere, and there are some other techniques like there are radiation induced techniques. So among the radiation induced techniques, we have high energy based radiation methods, which are the gamma radiations. Then we have UV based methods where the grafting is restricted only to the surface of the backbone. And then we have microwave radiation based methods which can be controlled, which can be controlled for free radical generation. In these microwave radiation based methods, we have microwave initiated methods where we use only the microwave radiation for free radical generation. Whereas we have microwave assisted methods in which along with the microwave irradiation, we employ certain chemical free radical initiators to have a sort of combination of chemical techniques as well as microwave based methods. Then such kind of polymers, the graft copolymers so formed, they are used in various applications, like they are used as flocculant for wastewater treatment, as matrix for controlled drug release, as viscosifiers, as drag reducing agents, as bioadhesives for homeostasis, and as superabsorbent hydrogen. When we employ them for environmental remediation, we broadly use them as flocculants for bringing down the total suspended impurities present in water, or we may use them as hydrogels where we may selectively remove the heavy metal ions, or we may just remove the dyes or any other selective pollutants from it. So for this, a process called flocculation is employed. And flocculation is a process of forming larger agglomerates of colloidal particles which are already suspended in the wastewater stream, aided by high molecular weight polymeric materials called as flocculates. So these flocculants, they serve to bring these suspended colloidal particles in the wastewater together, and they can be flocculants, they can be natural or they can be synthetic. So no substantial change of surface charge is accomplished in flocculation. So when they bring these suspended impurities together, they agglomerate them, and this agglomeration is formed by flocculation, where the flocks are of larger size. It's strongly bound and porous, and consequently it settles down at the bottom of the tank or the jar as a result of gravity. Earlier we used to follow similar treatment technique using coagulants, which are the inorganic chemicals which neutralize the charge on colloids. So the difference between coagulation and flocculation is we prefer flocculation over coagulation because flocculants are made from naturally derived materials. They are biodegradable, they are required in small dosages, and they do not have any long-term effects. Whereas coagulants, they are mainly aluminum based salts, and reports were there that they may lead to Alzheimer's disease. They are required in high dosage, and so the biodegradation is also an issue. So this is how the bridging mechanism it takes place. We have a graft copolymer with a preformed chain, and along with it we can see that we have the branches upon it, which are the grafted branches, and we have this suspended particle as impurity. So this particle it comes in contact with the graft copolymer. Similarly, this chain grows, the aggregation continues, and it settles down by forming the larger flocks. So for synthesis, we preferred microwave as an advanced technique because in contrast with the conventional methods where we require inert atmosphere, longer time, and initiators and catalysts, we may do it using only the micro irradiation alone. But to obtain the better results, we use microwave assisted also. That means along with the initiator and catalyst, we apply microwave irradiation to the reaction mixture. So the result is that we get higher percentage grafting, better that means better association of these grafts upon the preformed polymer chain. The homopolymerization is favored, and we get more efficient metal ion sorbent and more efficient flocculation efficacy also. So here we are going to discuss two cases of environmental remediation. Like one is the flocculation study of polyacrylamide grafted agar upon synthetic and natural wastewater suspensions, where we are using these graft copolymers as a flocculant to bring down the suspended impurities. So this is the first discussion, and in the second one we will discuss how we synthesized a hydrogel and how it was used to selectively remove an organic dye from wastewater. So this is our first discussion. So this is how the microwave assisted synthesis of acrylic monomers grafted agar was done. Agar along with chemical free radical initiator, here it is ferric ammonium nitrate in this case, which is a well known chemical initiator, and along with the monomer, which is acrylamide, it was mixed in appropriate proportions in reaction vessel. Microwave was irradiated to it, and it formed a gel-like mass. Now this gel-like mass was precipitated in acetone, and any occluded homopolymer removed by acetone, by keeping it in acetone overnight. Then we got such kind of product which was dried and ground and seeped. After this, these are the synthesis details of agar grafted PAM. So although I am discussing here only microwave assisted techniques where we have used micro irradiation along with the chemical free radical initiator, yet the details are given to clarify this picture that we did it using all the three, the conventional, microwave initiated and microwave assisted technique, and in that we synthesized various grades by optimizing the weight of acrylamide, weight of can, and performing the intrinsic viscosity analysis and number average molecular weight using osmometer. So once all these analysis was done, we found that among the various grades and among the among the available techniques of synthesis using microwave, the microwave assisted synthesis was found to be to give good results in this case, and in microwave assisted synthesis also, this agar grafted PAM 2 grade, it was found to give good results where the percentage grafting was 1144%, and higher amount of viscosity and molecular weight was obtained, and consequently it gave us better results also for flocculation. And these are 2-3 examples of where the flocculation studies were done in 1% coal fine suspension. So we can see that comparatively we got by visual examination also, we can see that this supernatant, it is clarified. Similarly, we did it for iron ore suspension. So these are the results in flocculator. This is jar test apparatus, which is used to simulate the wastewater treatment plant. So we can see that it clarified the iron ore suspension also. Then we compared the percentage grafting, intrinsic viscosity and flocculation efficacy of agar grafted PAM in various suspensions. We found that yes, microwave assisted synthesis, it gave us better results, and among that also grade 2 was better in terms of flocculation efficacy. Then we did this analysis for treatment of municipal sewage water, and this time we took the set 1 for, that means wastewater without flocculant, then wastewater with the optimized dosage of agar only, then with a coagulant alum, and then with the optimized grade, that is agar grafted PAM 2 grade, synthesized by all these three techniques, that is the conventional, microwave initiated and microwave assisted. And we found that yes, the agar grafted PAM 2 with microwave assisted one, it gave comparatively better results and better flocculation efficacy compared to the all other sets. So this is our second discussion where we had synthesized another gum, Jingan gum, with a borax cross-linked hydrogel to form a borax cross-linked hydrogel, and it was used for dye removal studies. So we know that water pollution is a major threat to our growing economy, and it contains toxic chemicals, dyes, pigments, heavy metals and radioactive pollutants. So this Remazole Brilliant Blue R dye, also known as Reactive Blue 19, it's an anthraquinone based dye resembling polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. It's most commonly used in textile industries and is a starting material for manufacture of polymeric materials, and it is classified as toxic, carcinogenic, recalcitrant pollutant, and is extremely harmful for aquatic and vegetative lives. It is necessary to remove this RBBR dye before disposal, and now that we have zero liquid discharge norms for the textile industries, so entire thing has to be recycled. All the effluents have to be recycled. Nothing can be discharged outside the textile industries. So the synthesis and characterization of hydrogel and consequently dye removal was done. So borax, it can form 3D hydrogel structure with OH bonds of polysaccharides. In aqueous state, it exists as tetravalent ion, having the potential to react with 4 hydroxyl groups at a time. So this makes borax an efficient cross-linker. So that is why borax was chosen as a cross-linker, because it can form a good network and simultaneous bonding with 4 OH groups can be done. So once this synthesis was done, it was characterized using FTIR, SEM, XRD, swelling studies at different pH and temperature, and it was optimized. The application of hydrogel was for dye remediation. So the range was selected for in terms of initial dye concentration, adsorbent dosage, pH, agitation time and temperature, and lambda max for dye absorbance. It was 592 nm. So the percentage adsorption and QE, that is the equilibrium capacity of dye, that was determined using these standard equations. So we can see the details of initial dye concentration, which varied from 5 mg per liter to 80, adsorbent dosage 0.1 to 0.8, similarly pH at all pH 2.5 to 10, agitation time and temperature ranges. So there was a wide range to cover the maximum removal of dye. So these conditions were set up. So these are the standard equations for dye removal efficiency, which is initial concentration minus equilibrium dye concentration by CO, and CO is the initial dye concentration, and C is the equilibrium dye concentration, and V is the volume of dye solution taken, and M is the amount of adsorbent. Then we moved on for the synthesis. So this synthesis was done taking the Jingan gum, which was crushed, and it was dissolved in distilled water along with acrylamide, can and borax crosslinker. This reaction mixture, this was subjected to microwave irradiation at 70 degrees. and a Zingan borax hydrogel was formed. The synthesis of this hydrogel, it was confirmed through analytical techniques, and it was employed for dye removal studies in a control RBBR dye solution and the treated RBBR dye solution, and this was allowed to stay in the dye solution for some duration of time, and as we see, gradually the color of the dye is going, it is decolorizing till finally we have this treated solution. So this was studied in terms of kinetics. We did SEM analysis, and this was studied for its biodegradation and half-life determination, and as well as how many times we can use this hydrogel by sorption desorption. So 1 gram of Zingan gum along with 7 gram monomer initiator can and crosslinker borax were taken. These amounts, they were optimized by first the reported literature, and then they were optimized based on our past experience, along with little bit hit and trial method also. So this reaction was subjected to microwave reactor with intermittent radiation of 700 watts, and until a gel-like mass was produced, and similarly it was kept in acetone for 72 hours to remove competing homopolymer formation, dried and so this is the hypothesized mechanism involved in synthesis of Zingan grafted acrylamide cross-linked with borax hydrogel. So we see that Zingan polymer, it contains OH groups, and the free radical is generated on the oxygen, and to which the monomer acrylamide gets attached, and these are the three ways in which the borax can cross-link between the two chains of this grafted product, and the chain initiation is done by free radical initiation. This is how it propagates until chain termination also takes place. So in between we have the maximum concentration of this hydrogel formed, and this was in accordance with our experimental results also, that we had low yield, then we had a maximum yield, and until when we increased the concentration, the yield decreased down. So this could be optimized this way. Then it was characterized using FTIR. So we could see in Zingan gum there were some prominent peaks like 3309 centimeter inverse due to OH stretching, 2935 CH stretching, 1080 and 1604 to COC stretching vibration and OH bending both, and a unique peak at 1419. In hydrogel, the OH stretching peak, it was reduced to thin peak, and it shifted to longer wavelength at 3394. So this is due to the free radical initiation reaction due to grafting, and it indicates hydroxyl group is involved in formation of covalent bonds with borax. Then the 1604 peak, it has completely disappeared, and the new peak at 1327 centimeter inverse 1689 due to grafting, that is presence of amine and amide stretching, that was observed. Then we got one peak at 771 centimeter inverse, which was due to wagging vibrations of NH and NH2. So this dye-loaded hydrogel also, it was dried and subjected to FTIR analysis, where we saw that the peak at 1689 centimeter inverse, that is the amide stretching, it shifted to lower wavelength at 1620, and the other peaks 1327 and 771 centimeter inverse, they disappeared, and due to dye, the SO3 minus group at the dye, the new peak at 1320 centimeter inverse, it was seen. A new peak at 658 centimeter inverse was also absent in unloaded hydrogen. So after this, we did XRD analysis and SEM analysis, where we saw in XRD the characteristic peaks at 9.6, 19.16 and 43.29 were there, which were due to intermolecular and intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Then in case of hydrogel, the peaks disappeared and only one peak was present. So this could give us an idea that the arrangement order of zinc and gum chains decreased in synthesized hydrogel, which confirmed successful grafting. Similarly, in SEM analysis, the hydrogel surface prior to adsorption, it displayed smooth surface and it transformed into distinct morphology with white encrustation after dye adsorption due to deposition of dye molecules, and so that means that some sort of interaction is there between active sites of hydrogel and RBBR dye. So then we studied swelling index at different pH, and we found that high swelling was observed at pH 5 and 10. So this was because in highly acidic conditions, the functional groups U and H2 got protonated, resulting in mutual repulsion between two polymeric chains and allowing more spaces for water. At neutral pH, it decreased swelling behavior because the concentration of H plus was not enough to protonate the functional moieties. And at high pH, that is the OH dominated condition, COH, it existed at carboxylate ions. And this negative charge ions, they induced repulsion among adjacent carboxylate ions and anions, and as counterpart of alkaline buffer solution, so it created huge intramolecular spaces for water. Then these adsorption parameters were optimized, keeping initial dye concentration, adsorbent amount, pH, zeta potential, agitation time, and temperature. So this is how this standardization of and optimization of all adsorption parameters was done. Then once this optimization of all these parameters was done, we studied our obtained result. We tried to fit them in various adsorption isotherms. So the first one is Langmuir isotherm, which is applicable where adsorbate and adsorbent form monolayer at equilibrium and adsorbed molecules do not interact. So this is the standard linearized equation for this model, and the value of QM, that is the maximum adsorption capacity, and KL, Langmuir constant, they were estimated from this plot, and we got RL, the separation factor, which was calculated and it gives the feasibility of model. So if RL value is greater than 1, the isotherm is unfavorable. If it is 1, it is linear, but if it is 0, the isotherm is irreversible. So ideally the RL value, if it lies between from 0 to 1, so the model is favorable. Then we moved on towards Freundlich isotherm. This is the standard equation, and the values of Kf and N were estimated. N value, it gives heterogeneity, and if it lies between 0 to 10, then the adsorption is favorable, and higher N value suggests stronger adsorption intensity. Then it was done using Temkin isotherm, using the standard equation. Adsorption kinetics was studied to understand the mechanism like mass transfer, diffusion, chemical reaction, adsorbate concentration, adsorption rate, equilibrium point. So we did it using pseudo first order kinetics, second order kinetics, intraparticle diffusion model, and validity of kinetic model to calculate to check the applicability of kinetic model, and these were our observations. Along with this, we did enthalpy change, change in Gibbs free energy, recyclability, and biodegradation studies as per standard procedures. So this is how the Langmuir, Freundlich, and Temkin models were fit, and we observed from these values, which were done at 25 degree, 37 and 45 degree, we observed that maximum adsorption capacity of Langmuir isotherm increased from 6.2 to 9.8 with increase in temperature. RL was in favorable range, indicating the model is applicable. The R square value was also 0.8 to 0.9, and in Freundlich constant, it was found to increase from 1.32 to 1.46 as temperature was increased from 25 to 45 degrees, but it lied within this range only. And this R square value, it suggested that adsorption, it favors Freundlich model. The heat of adsorption, Temkin constant were calculated, and they were found to increase from 1 to 1.4 and 3.7 to 4.1 as the temperature was increased from 25 to 45 degrees. Similarly, the R square value was within 0.7 to 0.9 range, and the low value of R square in this case, it indicates that Temkin model it fit weakest in explaining the adsorption of this dye on hydrogen. So Langmuir isotherm and Freundlich, they were more applicable compared to the Temkin model. So this is the kinetics study details for all these pseudo first order, second order, Weber-Morris and thermodynamic data, and these are the corresponding graphs. So here we observed that the rate constant of pseudo first order model, it was within 82 to 14 into 10 to the power minus 4 to 3 with R square value of 0.89 to 0.9. But the rate constant was within 23 into 10 to the power minus 5 to 100 into 10 to the power minus 5 gram per milligram per minute with higher R square value of 9.8 to 0.99. So we can say that pseudo second order kinetics with higher R square value, it explained the adsorption of RBBR dye on zinc and hydrogel. So this adsorption, this might be due to physicochemical interaction between active sites of hydrogel and ionic groups present in the dye molecules. Whereas the smaller SSE values of second order kinetics, it indicate its fitness. And the lower values of R square for Weber's and every plotted graph, they displayed intercepts representing boundary layer thickness. So this means that various steps like chemical reaction and pore diffusion, they also occurred. So the value of del H at all temperature showed that adsorption was endothermic. The increase in del H from 7.7 to 9, it showed that adsorption was favorable at high temperature. And this was also confirmed with earlier experiment where dye uptake increased with increase in temperature. Whereas negative value of del S indicated that decrease in randomness at solid liquid interface took place where occurrence of some structural changes were observed in adsorbate and adsorbent. The positive value of del G at all temperatures, it showed that adsorption process was non-spontaneous. So its value increased as we moved to higher temperature, which also confirmed that higher temperature was favorable for dye adsorption. So these are the reports of earlier studies, the earlier adsorbents and their adsorption capacities. And this is in case of our study where we could find the degradation when the samples they were buried in soil. So this is the incubation time in days. It was studied for 180 days and we could see how the weight it decreased gradually. So the biodegradation curve, we got three phases. The first phase was slow degradation with weight loss of 12% for first 40 days, which might be due to initial water absorption, which created anaerobic environment unfavorable for microbial growth. Then the second phase was 40 to 100 days, where rapid decomposition took place. Around 46% loss was there. And the third phase was up to 180 days till the remaining weight loss occurred, and this facilitated entry of oxygen and made test material more susceptible to microbial attack and other degradation factors. So the value of decomposition rate constant, it was calculated from linearized formula of Olsen and equation found to be 0.0132 and half-life was found to be 53.3 days. Then we did the recyclability study and we found that dye removal efficiency was 92 in first cycle, 90 in second cycles, 87% in third and 77% in fourth and 68% in fifth cycle. So this decrease was there with the corresponding cycles, which is due to saturation of binding sites, denaturation of hydrogel and change in morphological properties after repeated usage. But still we could do this adsorption desorption for 5 cycles and we could carry out this recyclability till 5 cycles of usage. So the conclusion for this is that the synthesis was successful. We got this adsorption mechanism, it was studied and Adsorption, it fitted best with friendly models, and kinetic study was well described by pseudo second order kinetics, and feasibility suggested an endothermic process, synthesized hydrogel. It had excellent regeneration capacity, and biodegradation was also possible with a half-life of 53.3, 54 days. So presently we are trying to apply these gums for slow release of nutrients in the soil system. So just like earlier we used to do it for drugs, now we are trying to release them for nutrients in the soil systems. And our work was published in some of the reputed journals, and I acknowledge along with my co-authors to UGC, DST for research grant, and INRG NAMCOM for support, CIF BIT Mistra for analysis, my co-authors, students, group members, and organizers of PPC 2020 for giving us an opportunity to present our work here.